This is the Body Talks with Vera, where we dive deep into movement, strength, and joy at every size. I'm Vera, your host, and each episode, we're having real conversations with people who are redefining fitness, confidence, and what it truly means to live in our bodies. Whether we're talking powerlifting, nutrition, running ultra marathons, or radical self love, this is a space where every body has a story. So today we are welcoming in Jess. Jess Lynch is a 30-something actor and artist living in downtown Toronto, and she spends most of her time creating and finding new ways to bother her cat, Jeeves. Welcome, Jess.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm so excited you're here and to have a little chat. Like, I know a lot of people in my community don't know too much about you or you at all. And I'm so excited to kind of share you to my world and share your story to people.
I'm excited. Part of your world. Unless it's copyrighted, we can cut that
Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll double check.
out.
Could you share a little bit about your journey to where you are now? Like, so we got a little background on you. And I'm also curious how movement, acting, and recovery, something we'll chat a little bit more later, have woven together for you.
Ooh, that is fun. I refer to myself primarily as an actor, an artist, and always a general nuisance. That is my tagline, that is my go-to. And I would say recovery, I know we'll get to talking about it, but it is a huge part of who I am. It's a huge part of my every single day. Obviously, acting and creativity can go hand in hand. They're married. That's pretty self-explanatory. But I also think recovery and willingness to accept movement as part of recovery, it requires creativity as well, if that makes sense. Breaking outside of the box that you're in to think differently and to do differently than you have been doing. If that
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Could you go back a little bit and just kind of give, the story? Like, how did you get into acting and kind of what kind of led you to where you are now?
So that started in high school. That was always something that I felt called to doing. I love nothing more than attention. And so I felt called to the stage. And truthfully, like, I feel like acting, I know this is so cliche, and it is one of the things that, like, sometimes when actors say it, I'm like, oh, that's so cringy. But it is kind of therapeutic. I wouldn't say it's therapy, but it is therapeutic, especially when you were so young in high school. You're dealing with all these emotions. Theater acting was such a good way for me to like deal with that and process those things. Yeah. And so, yeah, it started pretty young. I did go to theater school. I did not graduate. And I'm sure if anybody who is watching has gone through theater school, you know the typical theater school experience. It was exactly that. A lot of focus on the body in
Mm.
that program or those programs. I would think it's probably the same way for a lot of artists, especially people who are in performance art using their bodies. Um, and when I was in university, I started, well, realistically, it was also in high school, but definitely in university, started having a not fun time when I was essentially over focused on my
Mm.
body. Been developing, had a slightly festering under the surface eating disorder for quite a long time. I would say that definitely started in high school too, staying on Tumblr up until 4 in the morning on all the horrible vlogs, all the black and white
Yeah.
imagery, all the
Oh,
just scrolling all the tags,
well,
just
yeah.
digging
Mm.
that hole for myself. And I just felt community. Like I felt like, oh my God, there's people I can relate to. But it unfortunately was not a great, yeah, not like a productive, not a place you want to be by any means. And so being in university, having all these big emotions, being in this program where you are so body centered, I just spiraled right down. And it took a very long time to reassure myself that I deserved to get better and to feel better,
Right.
and that it wasn't it's not productive, it's not great to feel like absolute do you swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
Absolute shit every single day in and
Yeah.
day out, just shit. Oh god,
Yeah.
it was horrible. But yeah.
Right. Okay, yeah. And we're gonna talk a little bit more about that disordered eating and all that kind of stuff. Like I'm happy to know like you're much more in recovery right now, which is kind of where we want to be. So I'm curious, what was it gaining weight as someone who's working in a highly image focused industry like acting, and also like you're saying like when you were in acting school, like n- that's what it's focusing on almost. It's so how do you kind of just go through that?
It recovery in itself, hard enough. Hard enough as
Mm.
is. And constantly seeing casting calls for people who are like size 10 and under. Um, there's a lot more of a market for people who are straight sized. Um, just like there's a market for people who don't have tattoos, there's a market for people who don't have the things that I have or are not what I am. It it has gaining weight like has of course limited the type of work that I get. I often get typecast as the mom or somebody who doesn't care about their appearance. I'm often put in rather dowdy clothing, shall we say. I always look like maybe I've just done background on 19 Kids and Counting. That's the type of roles that I seem to land in these days, which
Yeah.
is fine for now. I am grateful for the opportunities that I've been presented, obviously, but it is very indicative of the industry and what the kind of I don't know how quite to explain it. It's just very you have your it's like we're special in a way that is not cast as often. Yeah,
Mm.
it's hard to explain.
What you think of the current kind of direction that it's going, Hollywood and acting is going, because I think of people like, I don't watch Bridgerton, but I know there's a plus size actor in Bridgerton.
Yes.
I think Melissa McCarthy. But then there's also on the other side, there's people like that Australian Rebel Wilson who lost weight.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm curious, like your thoughts on that, if you want to
Oh,
bring up that.
absolutely. Yeah. So often ending up typecast again as somebody mothers, people dressed dowdier, people who don't care about their appearance, or funny fat girl, or funny fat girl best friend, or always best friend, always a
Always.
bridesmaid, never a bride.
Yeah.
And it's it's very clear, I guess, when I say that like people living in fat bodies, actors in fat bodies are seen as a different category. It's almost like we're seen as accessories, if that
Mm.
makes sense. It is rare to have a story about a fat person in which they do not hate themselves and do not want to lose weight, where the plot is not about them losing weight or about oh my God, I can't wait to do this for a man and I'm gonna run a marathon and I'm gonna lose weight and
Yeah.
or I'm gonna be relegated to the side while the best friend takes the main plot. It's very eye-opening to see those typecasts. I have to say shout out to Shrill, Adie Bryant, incredible show in which she is a fat woman just living her life. She
Yeah.
deals, yes, there are some instances in which she deals with introspection about her weight, but the focus of the show is not her weight. It's not that she's fat. She just is. She just is. And I love that so much.
I definitely think we need more shows like that because yeah, I think of Shrill, but I'm like, what other shows are there where the main characters are fat people who don't have a focus on their weight and their body size? Like it's actually just about them living life or doing whatever that show is about. Like I can really,
Yeah.
I think real, and then I'm like, what else is there?
You're like, oh, there's okay, well, insatiable. Okay, so not that.
Yeah, like it really is such a small, like a narrow category of what
100%. 100%.
and so I think it really shows like, okay, there's a gap in the market that people want to see because I see it all the time in different groups online where it's, oh, another actor in this show has to be talking about their weight loss, and that's the only like point, that's their only personality in
Yeah,
this whole show.
100%.
And I can only imagine how frustrating it is. Like, I don't know, have you dealt with that kind of, I guess, role maybe at all yet?
Not necessarily, because the only things I am getting to audition for are either off camera, so voice only, or
Yeah.
they are fat characters where not necessarily the plot, not the whole device of the show or the script or whatever.
Mm,
It's just very like there is always a small focus on the
yeah.
fatness, whether
Mm,
it's auditioning for Mama June for Honey Boo Boo, or whether
oh,
it's I will say there are moves being made by some companies to be more inclusive of plus sizes, especially people who are shooting for clothing brands, underwear brands, stuff like that. But yeah, because we are always seen as fat first, it tends to limit opportunities, especially when it feels like creators of these shows don't like it feels like I'd be pulling focus by being fat, if that
mm,
makes sense. Like it feels like I'm not able to convey just the story without
yeah.
it's the story and she's fat. Yeah.
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 And that's all they see, right? Oh gosh,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that's horrible, honest. Like,
It can be, and it's frustrating seeing how many auditions I used to get
mm,
before I went through recovery. At the end of the day, I will say my peace of mind is worth so much more to me than because believe me, oh my God, I lived in that realm of disordered eating for so many years. It's always in your brain. I have thought so many times, well, what if I just lost weight? I'd do better in the industry if I just lost weight.
yeah.
Oh my God, at the end of the day, my peace of mind and my like sense of self reassurance and self love, thank God I have it, because I'm torturing myself if I didn't.
Yeah, and I think that really ties into the next question, which you kind of already just answered, but yeah, what helps you stay connected to your talent and identity outside of your appearance?
There's a notion in theater, or maybe just in all acting, performance art, called grounding, and it's
Mm.
connecting with yourself and the earth beneath you, the floor beneath you, just being present in your body. I have to go back to grounding every time. I have to be in my body and to remind myself that my body serves me and protects me and is here for me in ways that are completely unrelated to my appearance. That and having great agents. My agents are amazing.
Yeah.
They've kind
Oh,
of like coached me through this type of stuff as well. They're absolutely incredible. But
yeah.
yeah, definitely just reminding myself that like I love my body loves me. We're gonna get through it.
Yeah. And I think that's so important because, for me as a flexibility coach, like my big thing is listening to your body when you're moving because we don't want to move into potential injury. And I think, that grounding technique you talk about, very similar, if not maybe even the exact same,
Probably exactly
where
the same, yeah.
yeah, really like listening to what is your body saying and how can you tune into it? And like again, like the body talks, listen to it. It's so important to really kind of like you're saying, ground yourself and also to have like a team.
Yeah.
Like to have a team, like to have that whether it be a community or, your agents, like to have people who, are on your side to kind of help cheer you on and help support you where you need that support. So addiction transference is something I had to Google. It's also called cross addiction. So, what did that look like for you, and how did you recognize it?
Ooh, the recognizing took a really long, like a really long time. I want to say it started with cigarettes. I'm unsure whether the eating disorder happened like kind of probably that one. Like probably since I was a child. That's been kind of like ruminating in there. And when I say probably, I mean definitely that started first and then cigarettes. But they helped enable the eating disorder, and the eating disorder created a lot of feelings for which I sought solace in alcohol and benzodiazepines. It felt like the image of the snake eating its own tail. Like
No, wait, with
this enabled that, enabled that,
yeah,
enabled that, enabled that. Everything fed
mhm,
into each other. And I truly did not recognize that any of it had been a problem until I was trying to recover from the eating disorder when I first started.
yeah,
And I've been to school for this. Like, I went to school for mental health and addiction services, and I could not recognize it within myself. I think because I was so unwilling to label myself as any kind of problem, as having any kind of addiction, to label myself as an addict, to accept that because I wanted it to feel further removed. Because if I had to admit to myself that I had a problem, then things had to change. And that
yeah.
was terrifying.
Yeah. That's all I think, I think of even, for example, where, it's the first step is admitting it. And that is very hard step for addiction or anything really, is to admit there's any sort of problem. Because yeah, like you said, it means you have to change something. And that can
Yeah,
be so
like
scary.
a lot of things. It's terrifying. I'm a Taurus. I don't want to change.
Oh my gosh. But honestly though, like it's scary because you're kind of going into, when I've talked about it in therapy, it's very like you're staring at an abyss, really is. And you have to walk into it. And once you're past that abyss, it's like, okay, it's just like it was just like a little foggy wall. We're past it. We're good. But you still have to go past it. And that's so scary because you don't know what's on the other side yet. And like I think that really ties into, having that community support and having people to kind of help you through that in whatever way they can. Love to know, like, what helped you break out of one harmful cycle without falling into another?
Definitely, like you just said, community. If I did not have the friends that I have, the chosen family that I have surrounding me, I would be nowhere. I would be absolutely nowhere. That and harm reduction, the notion of harm reduction, because I think for a long time I was stuck in that cycle. And to an
Mhm.
extent, still kind of am. That's the nature of being an addict, is like it's always with you. Everyone who knows me knows I'm a cannabis user. And I think like that is harm reduction. The notion of harm reduction is so important to me. I know I might not always feel like I need something,
Mhm.
but for the time being, I do. And if that thing can be anything less destructive than what I was doing before, it's a win. Even if that's just getting really baked and logging 1,000 hours in the sim. Like, lesser evils and keeping busy. Lesser evils and keeping busy.
Definitely. And yeah, like sometimes you need those distractions, right? Like you can't always face it head on forever. Like that's exhausting. You need to be able to take those moments of rest to be like, okay, like we're still, going through it more in a passive way right now, but let's shift focus for a minute. Like let's, calm our nervous system even. Because I think going through recovery is putting your nervous system in overdrive, really. So to take that moment to just be like, no, like we're gonna bring it down. We're gonna do some breathing while
Yeah,
playing The Sims or Animal Crossing or whatever it is your choice is, and we'll get back to it when we feel ready to.
100%.
So I'm curious, like, what surprised you most about disordered eating recovery and recovery as a whole that no one told you about?
It has to be how much better my life is, even though I'm fat. Like, how much relief I feel when I go to a restaurant with my friends and I don't order a Diet Coke and a side salad. Like,
Yeah.
how much more engaged I am because I'm not preoccupied with this all-consuming thought pattern. Like, how much kinder and more patient I am, and how
Yeah.
much more beauty I see in life because I'm not fucking starving all the time.
Yeah.
It I think of it, it almost feels like in The Wizard of Oz when Dorothy lands in Munchkinland, like, it feels like I went from living in monochrome to everything is full color now. It, like,
Mhm.
and maybe that's also just, like, not dealing with depression as much as I had been dealing with, again, like, the all-consuming pattern, but it feels like since I started making a concerted effort at recovery, like, that it feels like flowers bloom under my feet when I walk, like, it feels like life is coming to me because I want life. It's so
Yeah.
refreshing, it's so exciting. It's it's
Mm,
fun. It's fun
I
now.
love it. Yeah. And you know what? Life should be fun. We
Yes.
should have fun in life.
Yes.
It shouldn't just always be, capitalism, productivity.
No, no, not this hellscape, please.
No. Oh my gosh. I'm curious, how's your body reacted in this way? Like, does it feel like I use the word better, but I know sometimes people get confused when I say that. But like, has your body reacted in a way like where you can notice like hunger cues more, and does it kind of like react to certain things that, before you would be like, hell yeah,
Yeah.
like things like that?
Oh, 100%. For the viewers who do not know me and did not know me in the before times, I have gained over 100 pounds. And I feel, and it might, and it would probably sound ridiculous to anybody who has only ever lived in a thin body, who hasn't experienced this journey of recovery, who hasn't dealt with that. I feel so much better. My body used to hurt all the time because, like, all the time, outside of whatever stuff I deal with my back, which is a whole separate issue, because I was starving, like, so hungry all the time. My body was depleted of nutrients. I was in
Yeah.
so much pain. I would get so winded doing anything at all. And I was so distracted with over exercising that that would also push me into more pain. And I wasn't doing anything properly, like at all, because I was focused on pushing myself because I needed to see the calories count up on the treadmill and like just I feel like a whole new person, but at the same
Mm.
time I'm obviously still the same person with the same experiences, and thank God for that because my body needs to remember what we have been through so that we never do it again.
Yeah. But I'm so happy to hear that, because honestly, that's something I hear a lot, especially when it comes to the idea of weight loss for, joint health, or and not even like they use it for the kind of the guise of health. But, I think you're one of the many testaments where no, like your joints can still hurt when you're thin and when you're straight sized versus when you're larger. But, it depends on how you're treating your body. It doesn't matter your actual size. How are you moving it? How are you giving it nourishment is what matters, not the actual size of your body.
100%. 100%.
So, what would you tell someone who's early in disordered eating recovery and feeling like everything is unraveling?
It is. It is. It is. And that's the point. It is unraveling, and that is the point. You have to, and this is the hardest part, you have to unravel everything you've ever known about yourself, and you have to pick out the parts you want to take with you. You have to work really hard to find out who you are outside of that mindset. And it is really hard. and you have to do it if you want to survive. And I think at the end of the day, you have to believe it's worth it, because it is.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that will propel you forward with that. Through the unraveling of it all, you have to break down to build yourself back up, which does sound like something they told me in theater school. But this is different, because you actually have to build yourself back up. It's not just getting broken down.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like I went to art school, like a different art school, but I definitely see the similarities.
Yep,
for
the
sure.
universal truths of art school.
Oh yeah. If you went to art school, it's all the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what type of arts
Oh, you're
we're in.
traumatized? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, we've all been there. We've all been. We're still dealing with that, but we're all in therapy now. So recently, you had. I'm gonna see if I can pronounce this.
Do you want me
A
to say it?
bilateral. I'm gonna try. A bilateral salpinectomy. What is it? Say it for me. Say it for me.
And I could be saying it wrong too. Bilateral salpingectomy. You know what? We just call it a bicell. Me and all the other doctors, we call it a bicell.
Okay, so bicell. Tell us. Well, first of all, tell us what it is, and you know what? Yeah, let's start there. Tell us what is that?
See, your fallopian tubes. Got them removed, just fully removed, not cut, not tied, not anything. Yanked out of my body.
So this is not the same as a hysterectomy.
No. Hysterectomy generally takes your uterus. If you get a radical hysterectomy, that could involve your entire reproductive system. This is just a bilateral, meaning both sides. Oh, I hate that I just did that hand motion. Sorry, that was so trigger.
You know, lucky for those who are only listening and not watching on.
But yeah, bilateral meaning both sides, salpingectomy meaning I don't know what. But they took my fallopian tubes, and they are gone now.
Well, I know it is a congratulations for you. And you have been dealing with, for as long as I've known you, and I've known you, almost, I want to say 10 years now.
Oh, God. Honestly,
I know, it's been a minute.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe 20. When
I
did
thought you were going to say maybe 20 years. I was no.
No. I know we met when I was it was right before I graduated or around that time. So that would have been 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Because it was 20.
Round it up. Call it 10.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. It was a while ago. And I know even since then, you've been talking about not wanting kids, just wanting it, that kind of part of you out. And I know you were facing a lot of barriers. So I'd love to talk a little bit about those barriers you did face to get medical professionals just to take your pain and experience seriously.
100%. It took a long time. I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, and I have endometriosis, and I do not want to have children. So we had two different roadblocks to face there. One of how can we manage the intense pain of the endometriosis, and one of how do I get them to understand that I want permanent contraception. Unfortunately, even after 15 years of the whole dealing with PCOS and endo, the only recommendation that is still given to me, the advice for dealing with polycystic ovarian syndrome, is to eat healthy, exercise regularly, and lose weight. Which for people with polycystic ovarian syndrome is an extremely hard thing to do anyways.
Yeah.
And they say that even though I'm in the same pain I was in when I was thin.
Yeah.
So
ridiculous.
And arguably, the pain back then was also worse because I was starving my body of nutrients. I'm gonna blame that one on the lack of medical research on these afflictions and the lack of medical research into conditions that affect people with uteruses and vaginas as a whole. I'm gonna
Yeah.
call it
Mm,
medical ignorance, shall we say?
yeah.
And that's a battle for another day. But the sterilization conversation, the bilateral self-injectomy of it all, was a journey of constant self-advocacy. Um, which after advocating for my pain, it had been the biggest test of endurance that I've ever had to deal with. I've been asking for this surgery since I was 18 years old. I am now
Mm,
30 years old. And it's
yeah.
almost like, though, as soon as I turned 30, they were willing to unlock the door and like roll out the red carpet to the OR for me.
Which
It was
ridiculous.
exhausting. It's exhausting saying the same thing over and over and over. I've never had a maternal bone in my body. I do not want to reproduce. I do not want children. I do not think I'd be a fit mother. And be met with this stereotypical like, well, what if your husband wants children one day? Like, if we're having a hard time processing that I don't want children, just wait until you hear about how much I don't really want to marry a man.
Yeah.
It was a lot of self-advocacy, like endless, unrepentant self-advocacy.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything you could have done to help that? Like that you look back or, from other conversations that you're like, you know what? Maybe I would have gotten it maybe only a month sooner if I said this, or, I brought a binder with all these things of people saying no. Like, do you think anything could have changed your situation?
I genuinely don't know. And I think that also is reflection, like the experience as a whole is a reflection of the state of healthcare that we have in Ontario
Yeah.
right now. It
Mhm.
was hard enough to get a referral to like something that is covered by OHIP. Um,
Mhm.
and just first of all, our doctors and nurses are underfunded as hell.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doug Ford, for that one. Slowly,
Yeah.
slowly undermining and privatizing the healthcare system, which means that doctors and nurses do not have as much time to talk to you about things, which means
Yeah.
that you can get a doctor's appointment. Everybody's seen the sign on their wall in their doctor's office. You get 15 minutes and you get one problem, and that's it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so often fighting that was a hard battle as well. I look at all the things I did, and I truly don't think they would have done it
Yeah.
either way. I could have
Oh,
crawled in on my hands and knees and been like, please, please do it. And they still would have
yeah.
made me wait until I was 30.
Yeah. So like I think it's, just so wild. And like for those who are not in Ontario, the healthcare system in Ontario is like just said, like it's not doing well. It's on its last legs. I know I waited over 14 months. I think it ended up being 16 or 17 months until I got even an appointment to see a psychiatrist for my ADHD diagnosis.
Mhm.
I am still on a wait list for an MRI for my back. There's the wait lists are never ending here in Ontario to see someone. So, the fact that you say like, you don't think anything would have changed, like I'm not shocked by that,
Yeah.
really, because I do think, and which is such a shame because you think of how much pain you were in, how much pain other people with uteruses and vaginas are in from things like PCOS or endo. And no,
Yeah.
nope, too bad. I always forget the name of it, but I have the opposite of endo, and it's like adenoma.
Adenomyosis. Yeah.
Yeah, that I can never pronounce
Told
it,
you,
but
me and the other doctor.
yeah. So I have that, and I remember when I first found out I had it, I was like looking, I'm like, what are the options for me? And it was literally, it went from take a Tylenol to, oh, just have a full hysterectomy. And those were my only two options. And I'm like, oh, so what I see is that there is basically no research on this. And people do not have like, I don't want to say they don't care. I do think people care. I don't think there's funding for it though. People are too worried about other things and they're not really caring about, people with uteruses health as much as they should.
I'm gripping my hands at the legislation that has just passed in the States where the word woman, woman is now banned, and all the research funding for all of women's cancers. Jeez Louise. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, you're 100% right.
It's really hard to even witness, I think, a lot of times. So I think the importance of community is, a major staple in situations like this. Like to have other people who can not even relate to you, but just support you going through it and just kind of hold your hand as you're, struggling through what is our healthcare system, whether you're in Ontario or somewhere else in the world that also has a similar healthcare system. Like it's really rough. But, you did finally get it, which I'm so happy you finally did,
Thank you.
a little late, I will say, but at least you got it because I
I'm
do
all
think
getting there.
a lot of us haven't, and we're also going to be waiting, and some people will wait past their 30. They're going to wait until like they're 40 or maybe
Yeah,
even 50 or
100%. I am very
so
fortunate, and like as long as I did have to wait, I am very privileged and very fortunate to have a doctor who did, even though it took 12 years, listen to me.
yeah, definitely. Like I'm happy you were able to, finally get it. And, how did it feel to finally get the surgery? Has it changed anything emotionally or physically for you yet? Because I know you got it what, about a month ago now?
3 weeks exactly. Yes.
Ooh.
3 weeks ago, I opened my little eyes in the PACU, and I was like, so comfortable. I could just go back to sleep. And they're going, no, Jessica, you have to breathe. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll breathe. But it's amazing. Like, I was terrified before it happened, like terrified, not for the surgery, but for the anesthesia. And I was
Oh,
talking
yeah.
to my best friend about it, and I likened it to my fear of flying. I'm afraid of them for the same reason, which is because I don't know how it works. And she helped me to realize that, like, I don't need to know how to fly the plane. I just need to trust the pilot.
Yeah.
That really helped. Day of, I was so excited. And when I woke up from surgery, not even a thing. Didn't even not a sweat off my back, no pain. I was so excited. Just like so excited, so proud of myself. Aside from the small pain of having, because they do it laparoscopically, so they blow you up with gas. Aside of having the pain of the gas in my diaphragm, I was in virtually no pain. I was able to move around that night, do things for myself. I truly thought I would be like down and out. Like I thought I would be like Matilda in her bed. No, not Matilda. Madeline. Madeline in her bed when she gets her appendix removed. And she's like
Yeah.
dying. And it was like more chill than getting a tooth pulled. Like for
Yeah.
about a
Wow.
week, I swore I could feel the space where they were. And
Hmm.
that was kind of fun. But I'm just, yeah, I'm so proud of myself for continuing to push for this because I have wanted this for as long as I knew my body could create offspring, and like to finally have it happen feels like a dream come true. I it has been so painless that I forget it happened sometimes. And then I
Yeah. No.
remember and then I get excited all over again. It's like
Oh,
sick.
oh my God. No, that's so fun. And I'm so happy and I'm so glad to hear it wasn't super painful. Like I know a few other people who, now I'm thinking, I don't know exactly what they got removed. They got something out of them
Oh
that
yeah.
was related to their reproductive organs, and I know one of them who was in a lot of pain for, a month after, but then I know another one who started going back to their marathon training about, I think, a week and a half after,
That's
which of
crazy.
course
That's awesome.
going
That's
they're going to
hardcore.
be good for them, right? Like they're not just going running, they're going for, some
Marathon
solid
train.
walk. But
I can't
still,
even marathon
wow.
train on a good day.
Yeah. I know, me neither. And that's not my thing for
No,
sure.
no.
But I think it's really interesting how our bodies react to pain in different ways too, because it also depends on the surgeon, of course, I think. And how the procedure is. Because again, I don't know exactly what procedures they've had. It could be very well different from what you've gotten. So I may be wrong there, but I do think it's very interesting how, every body is different in that way of how it's going to react to something. So I'm so happy to hear that, for you it was almost virtually no pain minus, the
I
gas.
will say too, my surgeon is kick ass. She is perfect. She also does a lot of gender affirming hysterectomies, gender affirming care. If anybody who is watching this or listening to this would like her information, hit me up on Instagram and I will give you her information so that you can get referred to her so that you can get your shit right.
Yeah, amazing. Great. No, that is so wonderful. And I have another question here.
Yes.
And what has the word autonomy come to mean for you lately?
It's always, I don't know if it's just lately, it's always been freedom. Grew up feeling like I struggled for any autonomy of the self. I feel like I'm sure it's not a unique experience feeling like an extension of your parent and not being allowed to do the things you want to do, not just in like a typical like teenage rebellion, my mom won't let me go to this party type of way, but like different than that. Um, yeah, so I struggled for that autonomy of the self, and it's taken the last decade probably to get to know myself for who I am and to know what I really truly want and to be able to realize how important it is for me to fight for that. The surgery, yeah, was a huge exercise of bodily autonomy, and it's something I, again, am extra grateful for given the political climate in North America right now. I have been fighting for myself for so long, and I think it's important right now for people to come together and fight not just for their own bodily autonomy, but especially the autonomy of the women and queer and trans people whose bodies are being heavily legislated on and against right now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, definitely, truly. I'm curious, what is something you would say to, the Jess that was kind of just starting their recovery journey?
Oh, girl, hang in there. You gotta do it. You're not gonna like
Yeah.
it, but you gotta do it. And it's
Yeah.
worth it. And it's so worth it. Oh my God. I felt like a shadow of a person before. Even the
Mm,
way I treated my friendships and everything, like it was very indicative of the fact that I didn't love myself.
yeah.
And it reflected that like self-hatred, that all-consuming self-consciousness, the insecurity of it all reflected in everything I did. Um, and just like keep going, hang in there, white knuckle it, bitch. Just fucking hang in
Yeah.
there. My
Yeah.
God.
I immediately think of that little cat holding on to the branch, that hang in
Yeah,
there,
hang in
there.
there. Or my mom always says when I'm like having a day where I'm like, I just don't want to do it, she'll send a little train emoji and she'll be like, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can.
I love that.
She gets me
Oh my,
sometimes. Julie gets me
yeah, it
sometimes.
really does. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for joining me
Of
today.
course, thank
It
you
was
for having
great.
me.
uh, Such a great conversation. If people want to learn more about you and what you're up to, where can they find you?
You can find me pretty much exclusively on Instagram. My handle is at cabbageroll.queen, I do believe. Okay. I'm never sure if it's cabbage.rollqueen or cabbageroll.queen. It is cabbageroll.queen on Instagram. Probably also Cabbage Roll Queen on Blue Sky, but all I really post about there is TV shows and how much I hate dog porn.
Well, I will post both of those links in the
Thank you.
show notes. So, final question for you. Could you offer some words to those tuning in for when they need to feel supported?
Absolutely. I know this is supposed to be like a small like affirmation, but I wrote a paragraph. Be gentle with yourself. The whole notion of nobody has ever shamed themselves into being a better person is 100% true. You are all you have at the end of the day, and it will always be worth it to love you, no matter how impossibly hard it can feel. It doesn't have to be constant. It doesn't have to be forever. We all have our bad days, but even on the bad days, practice tenderness with yourself. I shared a quote with you the other day that's been stuck in my head since I read it on Tumblr in 2011, one of those many late nights I stayed up, which honestly, like, might have been the spur for recovery. For me, it's by the poet Sierra de Mulder, and the quote is, "Your body is not a temple. Your body is the house you grew up in. So how dare you try to burn it to the ground? You are bigger than this. You are bigger than this."
Yeah. I love that. Usually I would repeat it, but like you said, it was a little bit more of a paragraph, so I'm not going to
Yeah,
repeat that. But I do
yeah,
beautiful. I do think it is worth the listeners to, rewind those 20 seconds to rehear what Jess has to say. Honestly, thank you, Jess, for joining me for this lovely, lovely conversation on the Body Talks. And thank you to you, the listeners, for tuning in. Remember to drink some water, do something kind for your body today, and I'll catch you on the next one.